Hi, my name's Jonny. Hi, my name's Jonny, and today we are taking a look. Wait, or is it? We are taking a look at the Sterling by Music Man Ray 2. Just when we thought we couldn't get a simpler Stingray, Sterling have done it again and brought out an even cheaper series of basses. Previously, it was the sub-series featuring basses like the Ray 4, which we've reviewed on this channel and is hanging on, which you can see in the background right here. But now they have brought out the Intro series, a even more stripped back, no nonsense Stingray for the masses. Before we go anywhere, I do have to say that Sterling by Music Man have sent me this bass to check out today. They haven't paid me or said I need to say anything, etc., anything like that. They've just given it to me to check out for this video, so I'm going to say exactly what I think. Is autofocus working? I don't think so. Oh well. Now recently, with the release of the of the Joe Dart Stingray and the Pete Wentz, that Sterling have started releasing more and more passive Stingrays, and it's definitely opened my eyes and maybe think, well, maybe you don't need the preamp in a Stingray. Now that is what normally gives it its signature Stingray sizzle, but is it just as good but a slightly different flavour without that preamp? And so that is exactly what they've done with the Intro series. We've got no preamp whatsoever. We haven't got enough controls for a control plate even. We've just got a master volume and a master tone, which is now all accessed from the back. Other key differences include this hard maple neck with a satin finish. It's got a 40mm nut width. So in Stingray terms, that is slimmer than a classic American Stingray or even the Ray 34, but 2mm fatter than the Ray 4. A weird decision, I think. I don't really like the massive Stingray neck, so this is a bonus for me. We have got the misty green here, and yeah, it's cool. It's kind of like mint green, but slightly less mint. And we've got that classic ceramic humbucker in here. So I've got a bit of a story to tell you about this bass, because, bear with me, well, the camera's not having it. It clearly wants to blur it out. But I have got two of the Ray 2s here. First Ray 2 I received didn't work. I mean, it did work, but there was loads of crackle in the volume pot, and it would kind of just keep cutting out all the time when you adjusted the volume, and it'd just be distorted and farty and horrible, and then just completely died. And I was like, oh no. Now I contacted Sterling by Music Man and they passed on the issue that I had. I'm hoping this might contribute to somebody looking into the quality control of these and making sure that no others get let out like this, because it's a real shame. And this also gave me an interesting talking point, because I've got two of them here and they kind of play differently as well. So the one that I got resent out doesn't quite play as nicely as the original one I had, which is interesting. The setups out the box are not quite all the same. It's almost a little bit dirty, like there's little bits all over it. And moving on to the other one, I've got some issues with the nuts not being cut very well. So in terms of quality control here, it's not great, I'll be honest. I'm going to put the prices of this bass online on the screen now in the main kind of different regions, because this is where this bass gets really controversial. The Ray 4 in the UK is about £400 right now, so for £50 less, you're sacrificing the preamp and I think some of the feel and quality control. So unless you're in America, is this bass really worth it? Before we make that decision, let's have a listen to what this sounds like. For this sound demo, we are going straight from the Ray 2 into the Line 6 HX Stomp. We're going to be listening to just the clean DI tone. First of all, let's roll the tone all the way up and do some fingerstyle. So one thing I've noticed immediately about my playing when I'm playing this bass is that I'm playing a lot lighter and a lot closer to the bridge. I feel like when you play too hard, it feels like when you play hard on a Stingray, you almost want that preamp there to enforce it, to like give it some beans, and that clarity and that punch really comes out. I feel like for a passive Stingray, I mean, it does sound good. It does still sound good, but I lean towards playing softer, and I think that really starts showing when you do some slap, hitting it really hard. Kind of getting like a bit of string noise that would work if you had that clang clang from the preamp, but without that, it just kind of sounds unintentional almost. Oh, now this is where it gets interesting. I've just dialed back the volume by about 25%, and you instantly get that kind of Joe Dart warm pop. Oh. Man, that sounds so cool. I'm really into that sound at the minute. Taking off some of those highs just makes it a bit smoother sounding. Let's play around with the tone all the way off. And here there's not that much difference between like 100% open and 90% closed, but then all the change is mostly happening between 10% closed and all the way closed. Let's have a listen to this now with the amp sim. This is the Gallion-Kruger head and the Ampeg SVT 8x10 cab. When you start rolling it off, it starts to sound almost more expensive. I think it's just because it's more controlled and there's less string noise and treble coming through. And you know me, I normally absolutely love a trebly, clangy bass tone, but for what this is offering with the preamp, you know, it's got nothing to hide behind with no preamp here. So I think dialing it back a little bit is where this bass really shines. Let's have a listen to this with some effects. This is the Dark Glass Drive. I am not missing the preamp at all at this point. Sounds great with drive. Let's have a listen to the rack clone. Big Muff Fuzz. This is the Ampeg Liquefier chorus. And finishing it off with a bit of the bass octaver. So there we go. Let me know what you think of the sound in the comment down below. Personally, I think this sounds really nice, like especially when you always dial the volume back a little bit and roll the tone off a little bit. I think that is where a passive Stingray really shines. You know, I always want to play fingerstyle with it, and I think that's where it sounds its best, with fingerstyle, something mellow or even more melodic. It really suits that sound, I think. The tone pot does act like a bit of a on-off. It's not doing loads until it gets right towards the end. But if you can get that sweet spot and get it right before when the tone's all the way off, when you've just cutting off some of those highs, you can get some really nice sounds out of this. Although they play slightly differently out of the box, overall, they do play nicely. We've got no sharp fret edges or anything like that. I will say, after you've started playing for a while, I think it starts to feel a little bit cheaper, certainly when you're comparing it up against the Ray 4. I will try and do in the future some sound comparisons of the two, but yeah, I'm not totally sold on this if you're buying it in the UK. If this was like £200, yeah, I could totally see it being worth that money, but for £350, for £50 more, you can get that, which feels so much more premium in my opinion. But if I am honest, I kind of prefer the sound of this bass compared to the Ray 4. The Ray 4 is the preamp is where it's lacking and where I think the big improvements can be made. You've got an amazing bass which has room for improvement for the sound. This one I think has a great sound with room for improvement in other elements. So I would recommend checking one out if you like that passive sound. I think it sounds better than just turning this preamp down on a Ray 4. I would absolutely recommend trying one of these out in a shop rather than buying one online necessarily, because as I've experienced, the quality control isn't the best here. So yeah, that's just my observation. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Once again, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.